What's up, y'all? My name is Travis Handler. I'm the chair for Doane Leadership Educators. I'm here with another segment of On the Way Up. Today, I'm here with Eric Jones, who's the community director and is involved in residence life and education on Doane's campus. And I will kind of leave it to him to further introduce himself. But first of all, Eric, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Travis, on this platform. It's always interesting when people ask me, can they interview me and things like that, just because of trying to mentally prepare for everything. It's
Yeah.
just interesting, but I'm excited. Thank you again.
Of course, I have no intentions of grilling you or anything like that.
Thank you.
So I kind of want to start just with your background. So can you talk a little bit about where you grew up, went to school, kind of stuff like that?
Yeah. So I grew up in the west suburbs of Chicago, Illinois. The town is called Maywood, Illinois. So I was there for a couple years. I moved around a lot when I was younger. And so ultimately, I've had many experiences in the different west suburbs of Chicago, Illinois. So after high school, I went to Dubuque, Iowa, and I attended Clark University for about 4 years, and I got my bachelor's in psychology and social work. I was pretty involved in undergrad. I worked as a RA. I did a lot of stuff with our student life. I was in a lot of different leadership roles. I danced for 3 years at college. I was in a whole bunch of things. So we'll be here forever if I talked about all the involvements that I was in college.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I decided that I wanted to continue my path in higher education. So I started working at the University of Dubuque in Dubuque, Iowa. So the schools was down the street from each other. I worked as a resident director for about 2 years, and I overseen first year students. So pretty well experienced with the whole first year student.
Yeah.
So that was great. In between that time, I attended Dakota Wesleyan University in Mitchell, South Dakota, where I obtained my Master's of Arts in Education with the emphasis in higher education, emphasis in leadership policy and administration.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so that's how I kind of got my pathway started.
Yeah. No, and just feeding right off that, emphasis in policy leadership and administration. Is that what you said?
Yes. Okay. I probably said it wrong, but it's
no.
around the words those. Oh, okay, I got it. It's educational policy and administration. That was my emphasis.
Cool. So talk to me a little bit about what drew you. I guess you can start with your undergrad because you mentioned psychology and social work, but I'm also really interested in hearing why you chose educational policy eventually as your kind of your master's track.
Right. So funny thing is, when I started college, I was between social work and nursing. So I was like, I'm going to go for nursing. I took microbiology. I took general organic biochemistry. I took perspectives of nursing, all these classes that I needed to take, nutrition. And once I got to my sophomore year, I took anatomy and I failed it. I'll be the first one to admit that I failed a class, and it was not the move after that. So I ended up deciding okay, I'm gonna go into another field, in which I really enjoyed my social work class that I did take my first year in college. And then I was loving psychology. So I ended up continue on with that after sophomore year. I didn't have the best experience my last semester of college with my social work professor. She kind of was, I guess you could say she belittled me in a way, and basically said that my skills aren't as good as I think they are. And she basically wasn't a good role model or anything like that. Right. And it kind of, obviously you should never worry about what a person say about you if they're even doubting you and things like that, because those people are the ones who too much didn't really believe in you in the beginning. So I let that kind of get to me, get all up in my head. So I was like, what other path could I take that I really enjoy, still helping people, but creating an impact and things like that. So I knew that I was heavily involved in residence life and things like that. So I just continue on that path. So I ended up taking that path and getting my Master's of Arts in Education, because I actually had a good friend who went through the same program and was like, hey, this school is good, it's a good program. And I did it all online in a year.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's
In
kind
a
of what
year.
got me through that. Yes, yes. And I'm proud to say I did end with a 3.8, so I could actually say
Wow.
that.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah,
that's really impressive. I can only imagine how condensed all of that material was.
yeah. And trying to work full time too.
Oh yeah,
So,
I can only imagine. And I wanted to return real quick. Let's talk about the shitty professor, because there's something kind of a thread I wanted to pull on as it concerns leadership and empowerment, right? And so in that example, was the professor a bad leader because she was disempowering, or what was kind of the disconnect there?
I think because, for me, I was the only Black student and Black male, as per se, the only person in that social work department
Mhm.
and major. And, for me, I'm not going to kiss up to you. I'm going to let you know how it is.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of the professors, they did not like that. Yes, I can admit I had a unprofessional moment with one of my professors, and they took that and they ran with that, and they took that as like, oh, this is how Eric is, this is his character, blah blah blah. It was a lot of phoniness, a lot of people being fake. And there was a lot of I guess you could say lies that were put into things, like,
Yeah.
she said that I was always on my phone and I was always on my computer and all these other things. But I'm like, I kind of find it a little falsifying.
Yeah.
So, we went back and forth in email. And the only reason why she made those um, inappropriate and unprofessional comments was because she was leaving. So she knew she wasn't going to get in trouble
Yeah.
for that. So I think, as a leader, it was very it was very disappointing on her end,
Yeah.
because her and I have never had those issues before.
Right.
So
No, that's really interesting, and I'm thinking too, just a little bit, because you mentioned you grew up in sort of West Chicago.
mhm.
Did you find that there was also any sort of cultural tension there between maybe that you engage in education there versus Iowa, or was this more of just a personal issue you think with your
I
professor?
think it was more of a personal thing,
Sure.
just because, growing up, it really wasn't like I, was in like rural Chicago or anything. I went to decent schools, but as I got older, my mom was like, you're gonna go to a much nicer school and things like that. So from eighth grade on up, I went to schools that had a lot of they were very advanced in the curriculum and technology and how they ran things there. So I went to a high school where we were sending students to Germany and Italy and this and that, like, and we had a guidance counselor office. We had that college career center. I had all the resources given to me to where I didn't have to worry about not going without. I took AP courses and I was exposed to a lot. So when I got to college, I was somewhat prepared
Yeah.
for what college entailed. And obviously I didn't mention, yes, I'm a first generation student. I come from a single parent household. My mom has worked hard to get me to where I am today. Obviously I'm the first one on my like dad's side of the family to even go off and get a college degree, go again and get a advanced degree and continue on my studies as I'm obtaining my doctorate right now. But I feel that the experience with that professor really shaped me into the person that I am today. And I should have been like, you know what, I shouldn't have to listen to anything that you're saying because
Yeah.
it's rude, and I should continue on the path that I'm continuing on. But I already was having so many issues with that department already.
Right.
It didn't make things any better.
Yeah. No, I think it's really cool that you were able to kind of get the perspective from it, that at least as difficult as it was, that the lesson learned there is like that there are always going to be people who are looking to detract from what you're doing. Um, and thank you for being candid about that. And I wanted to ask before we pivot to, because I did some stalking of your LinkedIn.
It's
I
fine.
wanted to ask about what is drawing you now to continue to studying to obtain your PhD? Because I can't imagine that that is an easy like undertaking. So
So um, after my master's, I was like, what do I see Eric really doing in this whole realm of higher education? And you know, my time at UD at the good old University of Dubuque, I was able to run into a lot of different senior admins, professors, people who I just talked to in the crossings and things like that, and just gauge their minds and just figure out what made them get into higher education. So I was like, I really want to go past the whole director level of things and go past that dean level of things. And I was like, I really want to become a vice president. I think for me, just seeing now just where I'm at and just where I was at before, and even my undergrad, there wasn't a lot of people that looked like me who were sitting at these tables with the vice president or the president or things like that. And I wanted to create that institutional change at that VP level. I do dearly love working with students and impacting them and just getting to meet them. But there is a lot more things that needs to happen at the top of the chain. And that's essentially the president and any of the VPs or deans who are at that structural level who kind of have that power.
yeah.
As I tell people, as a person like me, I don't have much authority. So obviously there's people above me who can go in and advocate for students more and who can push this change and push that envelope. So I wanted to go obtain my doctorate of education degree because that's more focused around people who want to work in those like practitioner roles, which is either VP, deans, and etc.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited to see how the next 3 years go as I'm learning about different research practices and theories and everything else to apply this to my future roles and becoming a vice president. So, yeah.
Awesome. No, that definitely makes sense. And actually, I lied because I don't want to pivot just yet because I also want to ask you about why do you feel it's important to have that sort of descriptive representation, not only at like middle level administrator roles, but also you mentioned at the top, so president, vice president. I mean, I think some of it is inherent, but I would like to hear you explain why that is valuable.
I think, anybody who is a minority, obviously deal with a lot of different struggles, especially within the world of education. There are not a lot of students that are able to get the same education, I guess you could say like resources or things like that, and not a lot of people make it to college. So I think getting to that upper level to be like, wow, like I was a first generation student. I come from a single parent household. I've dealt with many different obstacles and challenges just to get here. So looking at somebody who's a vice president or president, that shows like, oh my God, like maybe I can do this. You don't know who you are inspiring, and representation is key. And I think that, the more and more that we're trying to push this envelope around being more diverse and inclusive and showing, equity in our practices, that kind of starts with, okay, let's figure out how do we best get people who are minorities, but also they fit that whole rim of like, they have these great qualities and good attributes that they can bring to wherever they're going to be. I'm not big on checking boxes. I'm big on checking to see if they're going to bring that quality and also what is their intent to come in.
Yeah. Awesome. That was a fantastic answer. And so now pivoting to like I said, you have just a whole litany of things I wanted to touch on. So we'll talk first about you did work with the Iowa Department of Health Services. Can you talk just first about what kind of your roles and responsibilities were?
Yeah. So at DHS in Iowa, I was a student intern. I worked under 2 social workers. So I would kind of follow them around and we would go to certain families' houses to do check-ins, and I would take notes and dictate those notes. I would go to court cases, anything like that that they gave me to do. So whether that was calling like other caseworkers, or that was calling the like providers, or checking up, doing paperwork, doing like all of those things in that child welfare department. It was a lot to handle, because not only are you being exposed to trauma, but you're being exposed to people who are dealing with social services in their lives. And it could have ranged from child abuse, from like the parent getting arrested, or mental health issues. It was just a array of things that happened. That's the reason why we were involved. I did learn a lot from that particular field, or that, from that internship.
Yeah.
But would I ever go back? No.
And yeah, that is another thing that I guess you can say that that's another thing you learned from it too. And can you talk a little bit about, and you kind of alluded to it there, did you find that you grew your leadership skills, or what sort of skills did this kind of allow you to develop being in this role?
I think when I was an intern, I was so excited to go there and things like that. I was like, oh my God, I'm being DHS, I'm giving me so much experience. And then as the months went on, just being candid, like I got depressed, and it was emotionally draining and frustrating, because I had two social workers who were not only rude, but they were very disempowering, because they would go talk about me to the other social workers. And it was a lot of miscommunication and misleading and misguiding. I was depicted as this person who didn't care. I had an attitude and all these other things, all these negative things. And then once I said that I wasn't happy, they were so shocked and so surprised on why I wasn't happy. And I'm like, well, it's because of the treatment. So in that time, I had to ask myself, why am I putting myself through all this mess and all this foolery going on with two people who's supposed to be here helping me, but instead they're going around gossiping and talking about me to everybody else in the office, and the other interns would come back and tell me. And then once I was like, well, this is what y'all was doing, it's like, oh, well, Eric this, and oh, well, Eric that. So I had to, grow some, I don't know. It was hard to grow and show my leadership skills. We're in an area where it was toxic, where people who didn't really value you for what you can bring. So
yeah, I'm gonna get up real quick. I just gotta plug my computer in. So sorry you're gonna move with me. So sorry about that. So now going to, and I'm sorry for prying into your experiences there without knowing that it wasn't a good one. I didn't mean to work. There we go. All right, we're back on. Sorry, Eric. We were talking about Resources Unite. Can you talk just about kind of the goal of the organization and what role you played there?
So in Dubuque, Iowa, Resources Unite was a resource and a volunteer center for individuals of all kinds, and it was open up to the community. So within that organization, nonprofit organization, I was a intern. So basically, if you was to come in, or a family member, anything like that, and you needed help with food or toiletries or rental assistance, things like that, we were very big on relationship building. So you couldn't just come in and we give you the resource that you leave. You have to come in and do a intake, and then we will kind of get your story, fill out the whole intake form, and then ask you what services do you need help with, or what like resources you need. So we had a food pantry, a baby pantry, kind of like a toiletry pantry with like body wash, deodorant, feminine products, anything you could think of. We had pet food. We had blankets and cleaning supplies and anything, we just had it. And the CEO, Josh Jasper, he was very, very big on like, how can we help this person? And now he continues that same path of doing like furniture deliveries, and during Christmas he gets all these families and kids to sign up, and I have actually have taken on a couple families to provide for Christmas with the list that they need, and Thanksgiving. So he does a lot of that giving back to the community and things like that, and I truly loved it there. I always told him if he ever had a position open up, I would come back and work for him, because just the impact and the smiles on people's faces when you give tissue or toiletries or food or anything like that, and they can come back as many times as they need. And even if we couldn't provide that certain resource, we will give them I'm trying to think of the word, referrals to certain places and things like that. So it was just great, but we did so much. And I was there with Josh the rest of my senior year. So the start of the spring until the start of January till May. And then he was actually the one to help me graduate, because with social work, we needed 440 hours to graduate. And since I was dealing with DHS and all the foolery there, it took me some time to get out of that placement. And then, Josh was like, you can work as many hours as you need after graduation and things like that. And him and I have just, developed a very strong bond. I would say it was more like a father and son bond versus like that intentional, like just intern and supervisor. And, obviously my dad was very absent in my life growing up, and he did some things that landed him in jail, so that's where he is now. And Josh was able to just take me under his wing, because he obviously, and I was very candid and open about a lot of things that happened to me in like my life, so Josh was able to kind of step in as that like fatherly role to be like, I got you, you need anything, I got you. And Josh helped me move in when I moved back to Iowa, and then when I did my kind of like my internship thing when I did for my master's, I actually wrote a 30-page handbook for his organization during the summer. So it was good. It was just awesome.
That was a busy summer, I'm sure.
Yes, trying to work full time in res life, because that's the busiest time for us, and having to do like a internship type of thing. So, but it was good. And I went back and got back into like my intern mode. Like if I was to go in there now, I would know what to do, answer the phone, all that stuff, because I learned so much in a couple of months and still learning.
Yeah. No, and one of the things when I was looking into Resources Unite, one of the things I really liked was there was a strong emphasis on community. Can you talk a little bit about what you might see as the connection between like leadership and that sort of community engagement focus?
So Josh was very big on us, being very professional, going out and volunteering, if people were coming in, for things, just providing them all those resources that they needed, but also kind of giving back in the community. And Josh said he wanted to stand out and not be that resource center that just gives out resources and tell people to go. So that's why he had a lot of people coming, and like the phone is ringing and everybody in the community be like, somebody told me to call down here to get help. How can we help you? And we always tell people we can provide you bus passes and things like that. And we did those things, there was always some way back into the community of like, how do we help them, and always, and give them as much resources as we could, so they didn't feel neglected in any way. And obviously Josh has went out in the community to do, speak-ins and teach-ins and things like that, to talk about what community really means, and how him as a CEO being a leader and stepping out and doing all those community functions and things to that extent. Josh had like somebody donated like over like I don't know, 300 some suits that was worth over like 600, $700 or more.
Yeah.
And he did some type of program around that to help people get a suit. And he actually gave me a suit. So I actually have a suit, but I don't really wear suits that much. So,
Yeah.
but that's just things there, it was just so many things that he provides and that he does. It's just insane. But it just shows those pillars of leadership that he possesses in the team around him that we had with the other interns and things like that.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like that experience is a lot more rewarding than
Yes.
than the work at DHS. And so now I want to talk about Doane. So how did you kind of end up in the community director position here?
So last year, I had signed up on this kind of conference thing. It's called OPE, which is the Oshkosh Placement Exchange, where student affairs people and anybody in grad school will go there to find their first kind of like big boy or big girl job. Um, a couple months before that, I was attending the National Black Student Union Conference, and I spoke with one of the OPE reps, and I signed up because I'm like, we'll see what's happen. I'm going to continue to look for jobs, but I'm not really looking. But if the right opportunity presents itself, then I'll go. So this past year, so usually you will go to OPE and go in the like in-person form, and you'll meet with all the different employers, and there's conferences, and you interview. It's kind of like a big old job fair, but people are there. There are different employers kind of around the Midwest and in other places. So I just did it online because it was online, and you can put all your like profile stuff, so your resume and why you're interested, and people can look at that. So employers can look at that and reach out via email. So I was getting people emailing me from all over. And then Dean Megan Failer had emailed me and just was just like, hey, I saw your profile on OPE. Would you like to come down for a interview? Well, first it was a Zoom interview, so we did that, and now I'm here. I've been here 8 months, and it's been amazing. Like I've learned so much in these 8 months. Just the support that I've been given from everybody in my department and even just in student experience have been amazing.
Yeah. And I think one of my first kind of interactions with you was sort of a pseudo interactions was you were at the Doane Black Student Alliance meeting, and you also mentioned that you had done work with Black student unions in the past. And since you're sort of the community director, can you talk about some of the ways that you find like equity and community to be connected, or why it's important to have those be connected?
I think because for a lot of students who especially who come in who identify as being a minority, I think it's kind of hard for them to adapt to not only their like the area that they're in, but like authority to some way, or even finding a person that looks like them and trying to find those common things between them. As far as like equity and just looking at just community, I feel like it's so big to build that relationship with other students. And that's what all students, just to be inclusive and things like that, but also emphasize on everybody is different. You have to be able to be respectful, and you have to be able to understand people's struggles, because you don't know what the next person has went through. You don't know what anybody's story is. So I feel like continuing to build those communities and build those relationships are important. I think obviously there's still work to be done as far as equity pieces, but I feel that we are moving in a better direction to be more equitable and make sure that all students are feeling as treated and as respected as they should be.
No, awesome. And so I guess thinking about somebody who's in like a student leadership role like myself, or just any student leader on Doane's campus, what are some of the practical ways that we can kind of promote equity and inclusivity and display that to fellow students on Doane's campus?
So I feel like this is always a a interesting question, and trying to answer it, it can be in so many ways that
Sure.
it's going.
Yeah.
So I find it as two layers. So you have that one layer of a student leader who is minority. So obviously a lot of things may look a little bit different as far as pushing for equity, pushing for inclusivity, and pushing for let's being more diverse and things like that, and getting people, rallied up and things like that. And then you have the other student leader who probably doesn't identify as a minority, and those, could be more allies. How do we best together, join everybody in one to just inclusively just push inclusivity all the way? I feel like, you have to be kind of aware and culturally aware of things, and just don't be afraid to ask those questions of like, hey, what does this actually mean? Hey, I know, like, I've heard a person say this, could we have a candid conversation about what are those cultural barriers that y'all face? What are some things that we can help on our end, or to like advocate or to push as a student leader? Because not everybody is going to understand, not everybody's going to be able to grasp the cultural appropriation of things.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard because as student leaders, you are focused on so many things, and trying to push that envelope of like, okay, what can we do? Because we probably have never walked in these shoes of Black people or Asian people or LGBTQ people or anybody that falls under that umbrella of being a minoritized student, just because those experiences look different.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it's too late for people to be allies and figure out what is the best way they can help. And because again, everybody experiences are so different.
Right.
Again, there's more of, let's probably watch a webinar, or let's ask the questions, or let's, we may have to get uncomfortable, but this is for the right reasons, because you as an individual will want to know about this culture and tradition things and things like that.
Yeah. No, that's a super great answer. And I think I wish that I had framed it less broadly, but you did a fantastic job. So thank you. And so I want to talk a little bit about, because you and Louise hosted, I was a part of the Doane Dialogues the other day, the Civil Rights Trail. Do y'all have planned programming for Black History Month? First of all, I know Louise has done a bunch of stuff in the past. Can you talk a little bit about what y'all have planned there?
So we haven't can't really talk about programming yet with Black History Month. There will probably be a array of things going on in that month. Yeah. I think one thing I can say is Luis is very proactive. Yeah. He's very vibrant, and he's very task driven. So he's going to, if he has something that he wants to get done and he has something in mind, he is going to do it. The past 8 months have been amazing. Just getting to know him, and as I am the chair of the Student Experience DEI action team, I've been second guessing a lot of things that I do, because I'm like, I don't want to mess anything up. And obviously I know this is his, position kind of, since he's the VP of DEI. It's always a rewarding experience just being in his presence, because Louise knows so much. Yeah. I don't know if you ever had the chance to sit down and actually talk with him, but he's just amazing. I can go on and on about him and just how amazing the work that he's doing. But no, we haven't sat down, talked about anything for Black History Month. So I'm excited to see what other clubs do, any collaborations, things like that. So
yeah, and I actually interviewed Louise last year for this around this time, and I'll tell you what he said, then I'll kind of pose the same question to you. We were asking specifically about what Black History Month means, and one of the things that he emphasized, and it totally kind of transformed the way I look at this, is he said we need to be living Black History Month not in just in February, but in January, March, April, May. And so again, this is another really broad question, and you've kind of already touched on this, but how can we kind of live out the values of Black History Month throughout the year?
Oof. Really and truly, I don't think it's hard. I think it's about, it has to be a collective um, collaboration from all departments, all pieces. I think just at that university level, like we have to figure out if we want to focus on a value every month, we want to focus on certain, pillars, certain characteristics, like just figuring out how are we going to embody what it really means through that Black history lenses. Like, are we going to, focus on equality? Are we going to focus on, freedom? Are we going to focus on what does it mean to be Black? Or what does it mean to actually, be your own race? How do you really take pride in all that? How do you, embody who you are and your true identity? I think as we look to like Black History Month is obviously the shortest month. Not a lot of people are culturally, knowledge about the other Black activists and the other things that happened within that time frame of the civil rights movement and other people that contributed to the things that we're able to do today. So I think it's just more of figuring out how do we, custom all of that into one, but also show light on other things every month, because there are probably a lot of things that we're not celebrating that can fall under that. Like, okay, we're not celebrating this in that month. Okay, how can we do that? But also, how can we continue to embrace all the cultures every month? And that's including Black History Month and just Black history in general. Just because, again, like history is still writing. There's no closing of a book on history. And, Black people are still being oppressed. Black people are still struggling. And I'm not singling out just them, because there are other races and genders and groups that are struggling as well. But, there are a lot of things around the conversations with privilege and this and that. And it's just so much more that we can go into.
Yeah.
But I just feel like it can't just be the DEI and SPB and Res Life doing the events and doing this and doing that. It has to come collectively from everybody. So
Awesome. Again, that was a really broad question, and that was a super all-encompassing answer. So thank you. That was fantastic. And so now, kind of pivoting to a wrap up, I want to ask first, like, what's on the horizon for you? So you're studying for your PhD. Do you kind of know? You mentioned. I'll shut up and let you answer. Actually, what's on the horizon for you?
So I just started my second semester of my ed program, and I'm currently at Edgewood College in Madison, Wisconsin. My emphasis is in higher education and leadership studies. So in about the next 3 years, I'll be focusing on that, continuing my work in Res Life as the CD of Freeze and Smith Hall. I'm trying to get a little bit more involved in doing things on campus and things like that. I am a co-advisor of Active Minds. I'm helping out with the guild, and I'm big on being involved and being a leader and just breaking those barriers of me being a Black gay male, especially in higher education, just showing that I can do everything, but essentially taking a break in things to that extent. I have enjoyed all the different like opportunities I've been given and all the people that have been, a part of this, just because like it was a struggle the first couple months trying to get adjusted and things like that. And I can appreciate the student experience team. And when Quint was our interim dean of students, he was a big part of like helping me transition as well, just because like it was different because I never thought I was going to leave Iowa. And coming to Doane, I was like, woo, I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know how I'm going to adjust, but like everybody was great in just the whole SE division. And now I feel like it's home and I can see me being here for the next couple of years, and just meeting everybody on campus just been great. So, I can't wait to see what happens in the next couple of years here at Doane.
Awesome. And so the very last one I've got for you, a lot of people I've interviewed don't like this question. I like it because I'm curious. I'm always curious about the responses. So if you could go back and talk to the version of yourself from 10, 15 years ago, or however, a version of you in the past, what is one thing you wish that you had known?
If I was to go back and talk to college Eric, so when I was 2015, when I got to college and I was 18, I would have told him to always shine bright and never let anybody tell you what you can and cannot do. I let a lot of people enter my life who wasn't probably the best, and I had to get through some battles first before figuring out, okay, this is kind of what I want to do, and just ensuring that this is the person that I want to be. Once I came out as gay when I was in college, that opened up so many doors for me and so many opportunities for me to walk in this path, to walk in my truth. And I take pride in who I am. I don't, shy away from those identities that I carry, because I have established and I have accomplished so much, again, as being a Black gay male, because I went to a private school as well. So I know, how it is being at a private, small institution, but I didn't let that get to me. I broke a lot of barriers and did a lot of things that I did not think I was going to be able to do. And I was loved by so many people just because of my charisma. I have a big personality and just the person that I am. Did I make a lot of mistakes in college? Yes, I did. But I've learned and I've grown, and now it's just only up from here. So we'll obviously see. But I think that would be something I would tell that Eric, and because there was a lot of things that I was like, man, I could have done this better. I could have, reached out for help. I could have done a lot of things, but sorry, I'm just on this like soapbox.
No, you're good.
And as I work with my students or my residents in Freeze and any other residents, I can relate to a lot of things that they are going through, because I was that freshman who, I didn't do so hot in high school, and it kind of hurt me in college because, I was like, man, like I got to get it together in college. And I did. And I did the typical things, went out, skipped class, did all those things I wasn't supposed to do. And I was like, man, if I go back home and tell mom this, I'm being trouble. I've been there, done that, but college, I tell them college is the worst and best 4 years of your life. You have to make it the best to your abilities. And as a Black male, I was able to get those resources and get college ready, because I don't think if I was college ready, I probably wouldn't have been speaking to you right now as a person who's in the process of getting a doctorate degree. So,
well, sorry, I don't know what that noise was, but thank you so much. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I'm so glad you hung in there with me again. Everybody, this is On the Way Up. I'm Travis Handler. I'm here with Eric Jones, who has been absolutely wonderful. Eric, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Of course. Have a good day, and I'm sure I'll talk to you soon.
All right, you as well. Bye.
Bye.